Just because my name's on it doesn't mean I...
No, I know, but...
I'm not on. Sure.
Welcome, everyone, to the meeting of the Warren County Board of Supervisors. Please rise while Supervisor Hyde leads us in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Clerk will read the roll.
Mr. Leggett?
Present.
Mr. Gerard?
Here.
Mr. McDevitt?
Here.
Ms. Bramer?
Here.
Mr. Brock? Mr. McDonald? Mrs. Frazier?
Here.
Mr. Simpson?
Here.
Mr. Vanslow? Mr. Dickinson?
Here.
Mr. Merlino? Mr. Stroud?
Here.
Ms. Sieber?
Here.
Mr. Beatty?
Here.
Mr. Montesi?
Here.
Mr. Sokol? Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Hyde?
Here.
Mr. Garrity?
Here.
Chairman Conover?
Here. You should all have received a copy of the minutes of our June 14 meeting. Chair will entertain a motion regarding the minutes. Ms. Frazier, a motion to approve. Second? Second, Mr. Thomas. Thank you. Are we ready for the question? All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And now we will have a presentation of a Certificate of Excellence to Bonnie Natick, Commissioner of Jurors. Rachel, if you could step forward.
Many of you have worked with Bonnie as our Commissioner of Jurors for the past 12 years. Bonnie is retiring. She's very excited about it, and we're very sad about it. You're leaving quite a legacy, and one that has become a best practice throughout the state of New York. And we could be here for an hour if I wanted to talk about all of your accomplishments and what a great job she's done on behalf of Warren County and the state of New York. So it gives us great pleasure to recognize your years of service, to say thank you. And I know Lease is on behalf of the entire board for your service. So congratulations.
Just want to thank everyone. It's been a wonderful ride being with Lease and Jurors. I've had a good time. Other than that, I look forward to retirement and teaching my predecessor to keep the best practices going. Thank you.
All right. At this time, I would like to call a public hearing open on a proposed tentative budget for Adirondack Community College for fiscal year 17-18 and request the clerk to read the notice of the public hearing.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Warren, New York is considering the adoption of a tentative operating budget for Adirondack Community College for fiscal year 2017-2018. Notice is further given that pursuant to a resolution adopted by the Board of Supervisors on June 14, 2017, a public hearing will be held by the Board of Supervisors at the Supervisors' Rooms in the Warren County Municipal Center at 1340 State Route 9, Queensbury, New York, on July 21, 2017 at 10 a.m., at which time and place all persons interested in the matter of such proposed budget will be heard concerning same. A copy of the tentative operating budget for Adirondack Community College for fiscal year 2017-18 is available for inspection during regular business hours by contacting the Clerk of the Board of Supervisors at the above stated address and may be viewed on the Warren County website.
Is there anyone here wishing to address the board regarding this budget? Our college representatives are in transit from Washington County, so I'll leave this public hearing open in the event there are any questions should they arrive. With that, we'll move on to the next public hearing, which is a public hearing regarding proposed amendments to ground lease agreements with Schermerhorn Aviation LLC for hangar number 5 and hangar number 6, located at the Warren County Airport, to construct parking areas and to build and maintain stormwater drainage areas on leased property, and request, at this time I would ask the clerk to read the notice of the public hearing.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Warren, New York is considering the approval of an amendment to the ground lease agreements for Hangar Number 5 and Hangar Number 6 located at the Warren County Floyd Bennett Memorial Airport between Warren County and Skimmerhorn Aviation, LLC to construct parking areas and to build and maintain stormwater drainage areas on leased property. Notice is further given that the Warren County Board of Supervisors will hold a public hearing on July 21, 2017 at 10 a.m. in the Supervisors' Rooms at the Warren County Municipal Center, Route 9, Queensbury, New York, at which time and place all persons interested in the matter of such proposed amendment to the ground lease agreements for Hangar Number 5 and Hangar Number 6 between Warren County and Skimmerhorn Aviation, LLC will be heard concerning the same. A copy of said proposed lease agreements are available for inspection during regular business hours by contacting the Clerk of the Board of Supervisors at the above stated address and may be viewed on the Warren County website.
Is there anyone here wishing to address the board regarding this matter? Please step to the microphone, state your name and address, and you shall be heard.
Good morning. My name is Bill Loeb, Glens Falls, 4th Ward. Good morning, members of the Board of Supervisors, my friends from Glens Falls. Thank you. You're doing a great job. You're all doing a great job. Mr. Chairman, on full disclosure, I was a former member of this board, and I am well documented in supporting issues associated with the airport. It's also documented that I am in full support of clarity and lots of debate and open discussion and no smoke screens as to what our deals are. And further, I am a candidate for office for the position that Mr. Brock currently holds. I'm sorry he's not here. I think he's represented me pretty well. Mr. Skimmerhorn, I think, over the years has done a very good job for Warren County, and I support that his efforts to continue doing that. The airport over the past 10 years has really changed. When you do any of your agreements, make sure they maximize the benefit financially and service-wise to the citizens of Warren County, and secondarily to the citizens of the region. And when I say service-wise, it's incumbent upon the political leaders of Warren County, that being you folks, to maximize the potential of this resource. The airport, to me, is an integral part of our transportation and communication system, as integral as the waterways and the roadways of the county and the region. So never lose sight of the fact that there are things that private industry will not do for the community, and that we must do, you must do, as a public service. So keep that in mind and keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
Anyone else wishing to address the board? There being no one else, I'll close the public hearing. The next public hearing regards the submission of an application for funding by the Planning Department to the New York State 2017 Consolidated Funding, CFA, for Community Development Block Grant Funds, and request clerk to read the public notice regarding this.
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Warren County Board of Supervisors at the Warren County Municipal Center Board Meeting Room located at 1340 State Route 9, Lake George, New York, 12845 on July 21, 2017 at 10 a.m. to provide citizens with information concerning the submission of an application for funding to the New York State 2017 Consolidated Funding Application. It is Warren County's intent to apply for New York State Community Development Block Grant Funds and to provide citizens with information on activities that may be applied for during the current program year. The public hearing provides an opportunity for citizen feedback on community and economic development needs within Warren County. Warren County will comply with the citizen participation requirements pursuant to 24 CFR 570.486 and the New York State Homes and Community Renewal Citizen Participation Plan as defined in the New York State Consolidated Plan for Federal Fiscal Years 2016 through 2020 and Annual Action Plan. The public hearing will solicit public comment regarding the use of New York State CDBG funds for the proposed community development activity for improvements to Warren County Countryside Adult Home, enhance public accountability in the use of federal block grant funds, and obtain views of citizens concerning other unmet community development and housing needs within Warren County. The procedure to be followed will be to A, provide a summary explanation of the New York State Community Development Block Grant Program and activities that meet the national objectives of benefit to low and moderate income persons. B, review eligible funding amounts available in the identified project activity selected by Warren County in their application for financial assistance, and C, review citizen comments and recommendations. Additionally, the hearing will provide information on the county's actions to minimize the displacement of persons from their homes and neighborhoods as a result of the grant activity undertaken by Warren County in the town of Warrensburg. Questions concerning the hearing can be directed to the Warren County Board of Supervisors at 518-761-7656. Written comments will be received by the Warren County Board of Supervisors at 1340 State Route 9, Lake George, New York, 12845, until 4 p.m. on Wednesday, July 19th. Citizens are encouraged to attend and participate.
Is there anyone here wishing to address the board regarding this application of CFA funding? There being no one, I see we have Pat Tadich here. Do any of the supervisors have any questions regarding this application? There being none, I will close the public hearing. Yes, that's Pat Tadich. She was here to answer the questions. I think.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say that we have provided a summary sheet that covers all the information, and the application will go in next week, and we are requesting up to $50,000 for a building study analysis of that building. So we were urged to do that by the New York State Office of Housing Community, that we're going forward with that. So thank you.
Thank you, Pat, and thank you for the description. Report of the chairman. It's a very busy period since the last meeting. On June 22nd, I, along with those supervisors, went to Intercounty down in Saratoga. On the 27th, I attended an EDC luncheon at the Great Escape Lodge, really standing room only. On July 11th, I attended a core team meeting on the courthouse expansion project. I'm sure Mr. Montesi will probably bring us up to speed on that, but generally it was a good meeting. On July 13th, I attended a budget meeting on self-insurance. Throughout this period, I attended numerous committee meetings of the board. On July 8th, I had the opportunity to attend the annual meeting of the Fund for Lake George's meeting in the conference center at the Sagamore. It was standing room only, and it was really just a tremendous presentation about what's taking place relative to Lake George. I should also mention, I'm sure Mr. Garrity will probably bring you fully up to speed on this, but we have, along with Supervisor Beatty, set August 25 as an initial kickoff meeting on the development of a shared services plan. Those of you that can attend that are certainly welcome to attend. If you can't attend, please submit any suggestions you might have to the board, to Amanda, and we'll make sure that they get incorporated into the project list. And that concludes my report. Committee reports. Supervisor Hyde.
No report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Leggett.
Excuse me. No committee reports.
No committee report. Mr. Gerard.
Facilities next week have two resolutions. One will be the table resolution number 2623, and last one, Katie would like to bring that back to the floor for a vote today.
We have a motion by Supervisor Gerard to bring 223 off the table. Do we have a second to that? Mr. Simpson on the second. Are we ready for the vote? All those in favor of bringing 223 off the table signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed? No.
Can we have a showing of hands on the noes? 3 noes. Seaver. Oh, and McDonald. Do you have it? Okay, very good. That will be taken up under resolutions.
Okay, and resolution 290 is authorizing amendments to the airport real property lease agreement with Kimmel and Aviation LLC for hangar number 5 and hangar number 6. And we have the Cornell Annual Golf Tournament, August 26th. They haven't signed up yet for the pre-season at Coleman Golf Course. The youth fundraiser that has facilitated their efforts over the years, especially the budget press. They've done a wonderful job with it. We've had great weather every year. Promise again this year. Nice to be here as always. And any other updates for Cornell Doctor? Everything running smoothly? That's the big one. I think
The fair is August 12th, the youth fair is August 12th.
Okay. And we had a slight roof problem, and we're going to handle that, I think, before winter time with our crews. And
Thank you. Mr. McDivitt?
Yes, just one item. Anytime a community loses a grocery store in the North Country, it's certainly a matter of some concern. The Price Chopper on Dix Avenue is in my ward, and many constituents, certainly of Dan's ward, certainly many senior citizens use this. So Dan and I and Ed Bartholomew are working together to just find a replacement for it. So we'll do the best we can. So that's
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Bramer?
Thanks. Since Supervisor Brock is not here, I'll give the committee report from Environmental Concerns and Real Property. We met on June 26th, and we have 2 resolutions in your packet. There's the one on approving the Phase 2 environmental site assessment for a parcel in Chester. And there's also one amending the terms and conditions of sale applicable to the tax sales. And I just wanted to double check with Lexi that the percentage is going down, right, from 7 to 6 on the cost. Okay. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And also during that committee meeting, we had a report from Wayne Lamoth about his follow-up on some grants with the state related to invasive species control. So it looks like we'll be able to get a lot of our money reimbursed for the boat washing stations that we've already put effort into, and we've already expended the money. We should be able to get those back. And related to Lake George, I know everybody here has heard me talking about the Responsible Boating Initiative, and that's really been going well. It's kicking off all over the east side of the lake, primarily in Bolton, but also in Queensbury. I know Supervisor Seaver has been working on this a lot with me, and we are hoping to get some funds from the county, and I am pleased to report that the village has donated $2,000 to the initiative. So I have that to give to the treasurer today, and we'll be discussing it next week at the Criminal Justice Committee meeting to talk about how we're going to manage that money within the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor McDonald?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. While I did attend each committee meeting and numerous public appearances, I am not a chairman, so do not have a committee report. However, I would like to thank Just Beverages founder, Drew Fitzgerald, Just COO, Jim Siplin, and Queensbury Hotel owner and Civic Center Coalition member, Ed Moore, for graciously attending, being our guest speakers at Jim Clark and myself. We hold a town hall meeting each quarter, and we had it at Haviland's Cove, and they spent some time with us, talked about Glens Falls, talked about what they're trying to do in the future with their respective business endeavors, and also like to thank Talk to the Town for donating our dinner that night. Thank you.
Supervisor Frazier?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Health, Human, and Social Services met on June 20th, and I have a very lengthy list of resolutions, so I think the resolutions will pretty much cover what we took care of in all those meetings. So starting with, well, first of all, we're going to pull Resolution 263. It was written wrong. It dealt with money, and it should be dealing with accepting funds to support the cost of a position, so we'll bring that forth at our committee meeting and bring it forth again. So 263 we're withdrawing. So we'll go back to 261.
Ms. Frazier?
I'm sorry, yes.
Are you making that motion to have that withdrawn?
Yes, I am.
Do we have a second, Mr. Simpson, on the second? All in favor of withdrawing the motions, the resolutions, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you.
Okay, 260, authorizing an agreement with Mahoney Notify Plus to provide semi-annual testing, monitoring, and inspection of the fire alarm and security alarm at Countryside Adult Home. 261, appointing a member to the Warren County Community Services Board. 262, rescinding resolution number 183 of 2017, which authorized an extension agreement with Council for Prevention of Alcohol and Substance Abuse for the Youth Court Program to correctly state the amount of the agreement and local share funding. 264, authorizing a memorandum of understanding between Southern Adirondack Independent Living Center and Warren Hamilton County's Office for the Aging and Regional New York Connects ILC guarantees to provide services to the elderly in Warren and Hamilton County. 265, approving Warren County Health Services Agency evaluation of services and an annual report for 2016 for the Division of Home Care and the Division of Public Health. 266, authorizing an agreement with Lexicate Learning LLC to provide intake software, installation of equipment, and computer equipment for the Women, Infants, and Children WIC program for public health. 267, authorizing agreement with Catherine Neely to provide nutrition services for the Health Services Department. 268, awarding bid and authorizing agreement with Adjourn, Inc. to provide transportation for preschool children with disabilities and early intervention program in Warren County. 269, authorizing agreement with Chantel Grenier to provide occupational therapy services for the Health Services Department. 270, appointing Paul Bachman, MD, as Medical Director for the Division of Public Health to replace Daniel Larson due to retirement. And 271, amending Resolution number 58 of 2017, which appointed members of Professional Advisory Committee of the Health Services Department to replace the Medical Director. So we had quite a few of those there. I also filled in for Mr. Vanslow, who, by the way, is home now, though, but still recovering. Support Services, again, met on June 20th. We heard from Mr. Colvin of IT. He had a request to delete the current position of the analyst programmer. We had a couple of things from the attorney, which you will see in two more resolutions. Resolution number 276, amending Resolution number 295 of 1995, which authorizes the Warren County Commissioner of the Department of Social Services to negotiate, execute, and deliver contracts for the Department of Social Services to remove the need for the county attorney approval. And number 277, which authorizes an agreement with Bartlett, Pontiff, Stewart, and Rhodes, V.C. to represent Warren County in the collection of private pay Westmount balances not currently in litigation. And that's my report. Thank you.
Very busy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Edna.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public Works met on June 19th, and we have three resolutions that came out of that meeting. The first being number 273, which is authorizing renewal of the snowmobile trail license agreement with Lime Adirondack Timberlands for the snowmobile trail located in the town of Hague. We have resolution number 274, which is authorizing renewal agreements with the City of Glens Falls and South Warren Snowmobile Club, providing the licensing and use of the trails owned by the City of Glens Falls and Trail Development and Maintenance. And lastly, we have Resolution 275, which is authorizing the renewal of agreements with various municipalities for the road maintenance on the county roads to the individual towns. This also includes, again, the $8,000 equipment upgrade towards salt reduction. There was a slight increase this year, and so that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Dickinson.
I'd just like to mention that I know a good hairstyle.
Oh, thank God.
Thank you, report.
Supervisor Merlino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tourism has only one resolution, and that's the agreement to continue funding the media operation that they do for promotion of the Charles R. Wood Park. And under O&M, operations manager of the park, we have a resolution in here to rescind the fee for the Prospect School 26th Annual Volley Tournament, and we approved that at the meeting. And And the only other comment I got is that tourism is going to meet on the 31st of this month, and on a major star report, and I'd like as many supervisors there as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Strauss.
Thank you. No committee report.
Supervisor Seaver.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of items. Under personnel and higher education, you have resolutions 279 and 280. 280 specifically speaks to our medical accessibility for all of our employees when they have a doctor's note and need some type of accommodation to help them, whether it be a stand-up desk, a specific chair, whatever it might be. We have now, thanks to Amy in self-insurance and Jackie in HR, they've worked very hard to have a streamlined process and a confidential application process for that. So we're very happy that we've been able to bring that to the table and also alleviate the problem from department heads not being able to have that money in their budget as well. So that's what 280 speaks to, and it was discussed in personnel. Also, all of the dates for our performance evaluation for our final eval have been sent out. In case you haven't seen them, it will be September 18th, 20th, 21st, and 26th. You will get an email specifically letting you know what time your performance evaluation team is meeting. So just to give you a heads up, at the end of September, you'll be busier. And we also had a lengthy discussion at personnel regarding the self-insurance option. So hopefully you've had most of your questions answered. You've gotten some additional material, and we'll be prepared to have that discussion and a vote on August 3rd with an additional presentation from our healthcare broker. Lastly, I just wanted to add on how much I appreciate Supervisor Bramer's leadership, along with our District Attorney Carasone, Sheriff York, and Dave Wick, as we began to talk about this Remember Charlotte initiative for responsible safety, voting safety. So we did confirm with the treasurer, and I checked with Claudia just to make sure that we can add this onto the public meeting today. We are able to take donations now made out to Warren County Treasurer with a memo line saying Stop BWI. And I really appreciate being able to work so closely with Claudia on this, but the support from the rest of the board in trying to lead by example in Warren County and have a Stop BWI initiative. So thank you, Claudia, and that completes my report.
Thank you. Supervisor Beatty.
Shared services didn't meet, but as the chairman indicated, August 25th we will have a public meeting concerning how to consolidate and how to share our services. This will include hopefully all the county school districts, as this is an initiative being pushed by the state, and I think it's a good initiative. And so anybody who can attend that August 25th meeting, I'd love to have all the town supervisors there, because obviously you have a vested interest in it too. That's all my report. Thanks.
Thank you. Supervisor Montesi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This morning at 9 o'clock, we did a tour of the courtroom expansion. On the tour was Amy from Emergency Services and Don Lehman from the Post-Star. In essence, we are a little bit ahead of schedule, and we're still on budget. So that was good, and I guess I was pretty impressed with the progress that is being made. Yesterday, I also toured with Emergency Services. We visited 2 or 3 sites in Queensbury, Clendon Road, Fox Road, roads that have been washed out. And then I also went up to Lake Luzerne, where I met with Gene Merlino and his highway guy, and we looked at a road that was washed out there 3 different places, right, Gene? Today, I think the FEMA guys, or I guess I'm calling them FEMA, but I think they're part of the Department of Homeland Security. They will be going to Bolton, Hague, Horicon, and North Creek, Stony Creek, and North Creek. I guess up in North Creek they really had a severe run out, and that may be a $900,000 program to get that restored. But in any event, we're working with the feds to see if we can, in the state, to see if we can get some money back for what we've done. Incidentally, Queensbury did open 2 of the roads that were washed out, and pretty impressive, the work that's being done. With Soil and Water, we had a water quality, lake water quality meeting up in Warrensburg, and we met with representatives from Lake George, Spoon Lake, Glen Lake, Lake Sunnyside, and Loon Lake, and we just talked about some of the problems that the lakes have and how working together we can solve some of the problems. It appears that we're making good progress in terms of milfoil reduction. That's my report.
Thank you. Supervisor Sokol is absent. However, my understanding is that the treasurer, without objection, Mike, would you like to deliver a brief report?
Good morning, everybody. Just a couple quick items. Sales tax, the last quarter was down a little bit, but overall we're still up about 1.5%, which is great news, especially going into our budget season. Correct, Supervisor Thomas? Occupancy tax is still up also. It's been down a little bit, the collections the last month and a half, but we had such a good first quarter of the year that it's still carrying through. On the good news side, we just made the last payment to for the cogen facility that was over at Westmount, so that's done. Centers is up to date. I don't believe they've made the last payment, but I'm not sure whether they've been billed for it or not, but they are up to date. So that's basically off of the books. Other than that, I really don't have anything else. Any questions anybody has?
Did you receive the railroad money?
No, we have not.
You saw the check, right?
Well, I saw a copy of the check. We have not received the check, which brings up. They finally did supply the reports that they had been missing since February. Unfortunately, they're in a format that we can't read, so we've asked to have them resubmitted.
I was able to.
Well, we can't because we need to import them into Excel,
okay.
and they're not able to be done that way. So we've asked to have that redone.
Supervisor Montesi.
Mike, the Bartlett, Cronin, and Stewart have been hired to collect bad debts from the nursing home?
Yes.
How much money are we talking about in total?
The private pay side is a little over $1 million. Probably half of that is with 4 different claimants, and we are in litigation. Well, I wouldn't say we're in litigation with them, but the Clements firm and I have been working to collect those. I've been appointed the administrator of 3 of those estates, and now we're in the process of trying to find the assets. The rest of it was all smaller stuff. We've written off a little bit of it, but they are going to try to, on a percentage basis, see what they can do with the rest of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Supervisor Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the treasurer mentioned, the budget packets are about to go out to the department heads. The New York State Comptroller has set the inflation factor to 2% at 1.84%. That applied to last year's levy is about $780,000. We haven't raised that much since I've been budget officer, so that's a good number, better than 6.8. If the retirement expenses remain flat, should we go self-insured on the health insurance and no big projects, we might be able to generate some more revenue to lower our fund balance use and also pay some of our debt. So I think it looks good myself, but we'll see.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
That's excellent news. Thank you. Report of the county administrator.
I've attended numerous committee meetings on some significant items happening. I believe the Warren County, the DPW paving projects are going pretty well, and I think we're seeing a increase in the quality of paving work done by the county crews this year, so that's a plus. And I have spoken to the foreman and expressed my thanks to him for seeing a better job. The glamping at the fairgrounds is getting a lot of use. If you go up to that area, you'll see that almost the whole fairgrounds area is being used, and I understand on weekends it's very, very busy. One positive note, we had a meeting here with DOT on June 26th, and they did find funding, emergency funding to pave State Route 418, so Edna and Frank will have safe rides home, at least on 418, going in the near future. That project's supposed to start next week, so that's a positive. Also, as a significant, it's not really a history thing, but there was a sign in Warrensburg that said, was against the APA, and the gentleman who had that sign on his house, who lived up near New York State DOT, decided that he's going to take it down, and the Adirondack Museum is taking the sign. So I went up this morning, they're removing the anti-APA sign. What he wanted me to pass along to everybody is hasn't stopped his views on the APA or the lack of accessibility for people with disabilities into the park area. So that was Ted Glusha, and I think it went up in 2005, and it came down this morning, and it'll be up to the Adirondack Museum in Blue Mountain Lake. Also, as Doug mentioned, the consolidation, I think we've had like 8 calls from New York State about consolidation, very concerned about consolidation, getting moving on that. Everybody received a letter last week on consolidation. There is a questionnaire on the back that needs to be made out, and please bring that with you to our initial meeting. Obviously, with the timing, we are not going to have a plan for 2017. We'll need to defray our plan into 2018, and I think the state will be looking for a resolution or something from us stating that. At least the call I got yesterday, they're all concerned. A lot of conflicting reports about this consolidation efforts. A lot of counties are struggling with it. I think we'll struggle with it a little bit. We'll see. We'll see what people bring in, but as I explained to the state, we do a lot of consolidation right now, but there will be opportunities, as Doug said, to garner some more cooperation from entities. So please bring your ideas, because it is important. Even if we get 1 or 2, it helps, and obviously this helps our taxpayers. You know, all of these things we do helps our taxpayers, so we need to stay focused on them. And that's my report.
Report of the county attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've had some personnel changes in our office. Amy Bartlett had retired last year. She actually left. Yesterday was her last day. She had been helping us out part-time, so I want to publicly thank Amy for her 22-plus years of dedicated service in the county attorney's office. And we have a new attorney with us, new second assistant county attorney. Ben Patello has joined us. He's a 2014 graduate of Albany Law School, and he is a recent resident of the city of Glens Falls. So, Ben, stand up and see.
Welcome.
Concludes my report, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Reading of communications.
Excuse me. Report of criminal and family workloads for May 2017 from the Warren County Probation Department. Capital District OTB financial reports dated March 31, 2017 and April 30, 2017. Capital District OTB surcharge check in the amount of $3,994. Letter from the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation informing that the Heintzelman Library, located in Brant Lake, has been listed on the National Register of Historic Places effective June 26, 2017. A letter from the New York State Department of Public Service advising that Niagara Mohawk Power Corporation DBA National Grid has requested that the New York State Public Service Commission approve a proposed increase in its electric and gas delivery rates. Letter from County Attorney Brian Reckenbach advising Benjamin Vitello, resident of Glens Falls, has been appointed as an assistant county attorney. Letter from County Attorney Brian Reckenbach providing written designation appointing Mary Elizabeth Cassane as first assistant county attorney and Benjamin Vitello as second assistant county attorney, and citing the order in which assistant county attorney shall exercise the powers and duties of the county attorney's office in the absence or inability of the county attorney to do so. Letter from Jason Carasone, Warren County District Attorney, designated Matthew Buren, first assistant district attorney, as the person who shall exercise the duties of the Warren County District Attorney in the event that he is unable to perform them. Resolution numbers 128, 137, and 138 from the Washington County Board of Supervisors, in a letter from Richard Hayes Phillips, Ph.D., disassociating himself and the School of the Very High Mountains from any and all actions of Judson B. Witham.
All right. Is there anyone else or anyone wishing to speak on the during the public hearing on the SUNY budget for this year, this coming year? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Mr. Merlino.
Yeah, I apologize for coming in. The chairman mentioned paving by the county on Lake Luzerne is probably the best we've seen in a lot of years, and I got a lot of people that live on that road saying it was done. So they are doing a lot better job than in the past. So I forgot to mention that. And the second thing I'd like to mention is about the flooding. We did have some major entrance road washed out Saturday night, and I want to thank the Stony Creek DPW and the Hadley DPW. Those guys got back in at 4 o'clock in the morning and opened that road. A lot of equipment, but the people had no way to get off of it, or we couldn't get an ambulance or a fire truck into it. So it was important we got it open, and they did it by 10 o'clock Sunday morning. So I want to thank the help from those towns.
Very good. Now I'll move on to discussion on resolutions. First, anyone from the public wishing to speak regarding any of the resolutions being considered by the board? Mr. Whitehead?
Travis Whitehead, Queensbury. I wanted to talk a little bit about Resolution 277, and in particular that perhaps it's addressing the wrong subject, but Mr. Swan just mentioned that over $1 million in private payments have not been collected, and I understand over $500,000 from Medicaid, and that $500,000 we're not even going to go after, I'm told, because no one thinks there's a chance of getting it. But as he said, the bulk came from several claimants. I understand one of the claimants owes us over $300,000. And you've got to wonder how we can be getting arrears on billing for over $300,000. That doesn't happen in a month or 2 months or a year. And so my question is, when we're going ahead and closing Westmount because we're losing money, how much of that has to do with managing the people here? I mean, and did those people end up, being moved to other spots here within the county? Who's got accountability for these things? Who's going to stand up and say, we lost $1.5 million, it's on me, and we're going to take care of it. This is how we're going to make, you can't unring a bell, but you can go ahead and say, I understand the problems, and this is what we have in place to make sure it doesn't happen again. And I sure hope that I hear that soon. It's just a lot of money. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the board regarding any of the resolutions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. What was Resolution 223 that you're bringing to the floor?
Resolution 223 is authorizing the submission of a grant application to the Federal Aviation Administration and New York State Department of Transportation for runway 1-19 extension phase 2 FAA-RA final design of sports on Memorial Day.
All right, thank you. I did come to address that. Considering everything I had said earlier, I want to also say I'm a private pilot. I am an environmentalist, and I have been following all the issues, the continued issues and discussions over the past 3 years since I left the board. The discussions that we're doing right now are based on a master plan that's nearly 20 years old, and probably more than any 20-year period in history, this country has changed a lot. Warren County has changed a lot. You look at Glens Falls, it's changed a lot in the past 20 years. Technology has changed. Traffic control is heading towards being controlled by GPS versus tower control and radar. it's well documented, my consistent support for the runway extension. So I can't hide behind you folks in making your decisions and the fact that I have supported the runway extension. I continue to support that based on the master plan that was written nearly 20 years ago. But at this point also, I would like to suggest to Supervisor Gerard and the members of the Facilities Committee that you, instead of keeping to your concentration on something that's almost 20 years old, look to the future also, because as we've changed, aviation has changed in this country. It's gotten bigger, more important, and we should look to see how Warren County fits into the regional and state air transportation, aviation system from 2020 to 2060. I think it's an important part of our system. We're at the end run. We're not a hub. So we're likely not going to have a carrier. That wouldn't make sense since Albany is so close, but it does, as I said earlier, represent an integral part of our transportation and communication system. So what is it going to look? How are we going to fit into this plug? Not just ourselves, but how do we mesh with Oswego and all the other regional airports as well as Albany and Burlington to optimize the service we provide to the public and this nation through our airport. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Just step back for a moment. Reading of communications? I'm sorry, reading of resolutions, excuse me.
Proposed resolution numbers 256 through 290 were mailed. Proposed resolution numbers 275 and 281 were amended after mailing. The revised resolutions were emailed to the board and posted to the county website earlier in the week, and copies are in your folders. A motion is needed to approve the amendments to 275 and 281.
We have such a motion. Mr. Dickinson, Mr. Simpson on the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Proposed resolution numbers 291 through 297 were approved after mailing. Copies were emailed to all members of the board and posted to the website earlier in the week. Printed copies are in your folders. A motion is needed to bring proposed resolution number 291 through 297 to the floor.
Ms. Bramer, Mr. Dickinson on the second. Ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right. Any supervisors requesting any roll call votes? Mr. Beatty.
223, I assume that's a roll call vote?
It is now. Any other requests for roll call? All right. Discussion on resolutions. Ms. Sieber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just neglected to also highlight 293 and 294, then the subsequent resolutions that follow them from finance. But again, the change in the district attorney's office and those budget lines, actually we end up with this restructuring a savings of about $10,000. I know our DA will be back to discuss with us in detail a couple other changes to administrative staff as time goes on, but I did want to highlight that to you, that he is being very creative, has a vision, and certainly is doing the best he can to try to save the county some money there as well. That being said, I just have a comment on 223. I would be more inclined to vote for this if it just highlighted the hydrology study, and much like when we vote on the budget, you can't pull what you like out and what you don't, leave what you like in and pull what you don't like out and then make the vote. I know it's kind of a package deal, so I am very supportive of the hydrology study, but am opposed to the rest of the grants that address the extension. So I just wanted to put that on the record for 223 and why I'd vote no.
All right. Any other discussion on 223? Ms. Bramer?
Thanks. Yeah, I would certainly echo what Supervisor Sieber just said about the hydrology study being needed. But also in light of what Mr. Loeb has said, where do we stand in the overall scheme of the regional airports? It's something that we should be looking at. And the other thing that I wanted to note is the advisory committee has been working hard to look at other ways, look at ways we can improve the airport other than the extension. One of those is like maintenance services, and there's all kinds of things, and those are areas that I would like to see us look into more and invest in those areas. Thank you.
Mr. Beatty?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment on 223 and the general observation that we have an excellent airport. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. We have a fundamental difference on how to spend $8 to $10 million for 1,000 extra feet when there's no real data that shows we're going to get any benefits from it other than spend the county taxpayer, state taxpayer, and federal taxpayer money. So I have real concerns, and that's been no secret. What I'm also concerned about is the lack of transparency with information that goes to committee members and to this board with the FAA, and I'm going to address that in further probably next meeting. But it's my understanding that we've got some significant lack of information being given to all board members, and I believe that once they got a lot of this information, they may change their position on a lot of the information. And finally, Mr. Loeb is correct. We're never going to see a commercial airline here. I mean, that's a joke. Anybody with any common sense knows it. We're too close to Albany. We won't get the EAS money, the federal money that pays seats, so Saranac and other small towns can have commercial airlines. If you really know the facts, you know that it's never going to be a commercial airline here. So let's get that discussion, just throw it away now. It's become a big joke, if you ask me. So anyway, I won't be in support of this. I will be in support of the hydrology study. I think that's a very crucial piece of this overall discussion. And the botanist for the DEC 2 years ago said the Morro Fen was in good shape, despite the airport damaging part of it. So, you know, if it was in good shape 2 years ago in his report, I got a feeling it's going to be in pretty good shape now unless we've done some other things to damage that crucial Morro Fen. So I won't be in support of this. Thank you.
Any other discussion on 223? Mr. McDonald.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I just want to echo some of the same concerns that my fellow supervisors just voiced. While I think the hydrology study is absolutely essential in understanding some of the consequences that expanding the runway would do environmentally, my reservations, as I said before, about the extension in general stem from the fact that, in my mind, I don't feel that it really transforms the identity of our airport. I have voted for numerous other endeavors to enhance the level of quality that our airport will provide in terms of services, some of the infrastructure. We just got an update in our airport advisory committee that we installed a new fuel farm to make it better for the existing clientele that's at the airport. Increases capacity for possible more fuel sales. In the last 2 years, we've seen a vast increase in traffic with jet airlines. Jets staying there, we're about to talk about increasing the level of the amount of hangars being constructed at the airport for more rental fees. Our airport, in terms of the business part of it, we're moving in the right direction, and we're serving a niche market that a 5,000 to 6,000 foot runway we don't really need to do. So I just think I wanted to remind everybody where I stand on the airport and why I stand the way I do. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any discussion on any other resolutions? Ms. Sieber?
Thank you. On 290, as it relates to the airport as well, I failed to mention in my report that the Airport Advisory Committee did meet just a few days ago. We changed that time so that more supervisors could make it and we could have a lengthier discussion and not have it on a personnel and finance day. So thank you to those that do attend that and participate. These items, 223 or 290, were not referred over to the Airport Advisory Committee for any type of technical advice, which is really why the committee was formed, and to look at this draft RFP. That decision, they very much asked for a draft RFP by this meeting, and unfortunately they haven't, they're a group of volunteers, they haven't had the opportunity to look at it and would very much like that by August. So I wanted to convey that message. But also, you know, in response to anything dealing with the airport, whether it be the extension, the hangars, or why we don't have commercial service. I think what's important to note is people just want the correct answers. They want transparency, and they want to be able, certainly as elected representatives, to tell our community the facts. And that's what this group is looking for. So to the extent that there are referrals that could be sent over to the airport advisory for discussion, we would certainly appreciate that. We continue to make referrals back over to facilities as well. So I just wanted to, in the light of it, let you know that 290 and 223 had not been discussed at the advisory group.
Any discussion on any other resolutions? Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just forgot to include a part of that. I want to echo some of the statements that Supervisor Sieber just made, and just add to that in the advisory committee, we approach the topic of commercial airlines because it is a question that we keep encountering, and it turns out there is a legal decision made in the late 70s that prevented Warren County from getting the essential air service funding due to its proximity to Albany, which we are requesting more information so as to better inform the public as to what the expectations should be with regards to our airline moving forward. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other resolutions? Discussion on any other resolutions? There being none, vote on resolutions.
Okay, Resolution 223, authorizing submission of a grant application to the Federal Aviation Administration, New York State Department of Transportation for the Runway 119 Extension Phase 2 FAA-RA Final Design. Ms. Hyde?
No.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
No.
Mr. McDonald?
No.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Sieber?
No.
Mr. Beatty?
No.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
That passes by a vote of 561 in favor. Resolution 256, making supplemental appropriations. Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard? Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson? Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Sieber?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 257, amending Warren County budget for 2017. Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard? Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Sieber?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 279, amending table of organization for Warren County Salary and Compensation Plan. Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard? Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Sieber?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 283, authorizing appropriation of funds from the general fund unappropriated surplus to transfers capital projects. Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard? Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Sieber?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 284, establishing capital project H371 Horton Avenue Sewer Extension. Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Outstanding.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Sieber?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 285, establishing capital project H372 First Wilderness 2016. Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard? Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver? Yes. Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 286, authorizing the county treasurer to appropriate funds from the reserve rehab county buildings. Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard? Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 289, adopting and approving Adirondack Community College operating budget for fiscal year 2017 and 18. Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard? Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss?
Refused.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 290, authorizing amendments to the airport real property lease agreements with Skimmerhorn Aviation for hangar number 5 and hangar number 6 at the Warren County Airport. Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard? Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 293, amending table of organization and Warren County salary and compensation plan. Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard? Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
And just need a,
Roll call.
no, it's also roll call. Collective on the ballot.
Okay, collective on the balance, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you. Privilege of the floor. Anyone wishing to address the board at this time? Yes, sir.
Hi, Harrison Freer from the representing the Warren County Safe and Quality Bike Organization. I took the liberty of putting a package with a bunch of petitions on your desk because mailing them would have cost the county more, and we didn't want to do that. But I want to thank Supervisor Simpson for attending the last meeting of our group. Also, Jeff Tennyson was there, and we had a good dialogue about why biking should get attention, and especially Route 9N and 9L. I just would, sitting here listening to the debate, wanted to suggest that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I once visited a place where BWI meant biking while intoxicated. As part of the feedback from Supervisor Simpson in the letter with the petitions, we need to emphasize the fact that bikers can be pains up in northern Warren County as well when they ride 3 or 4 abreast, and so our group will take that on and ask for support in terms of making sure that we all get along and that bikers don't slow people down on some of the more popular routes. But thank you for your help in making biking better in Warren County, and we'll continue to advocate for that. Thanks.
Anyone else wishing to address the board? Mr. Whitehead?
Travis Whitehead, Queensbury. I'd just like to correct a statement that was made in yesterday's Chronicle newspaper by Supervisor Strow, where he indicated that the Marl Fen is in very poor shape. The determination of what shape the Marl Fen is or isn't is made by the DEC, in particular a fellow by the name of Greg Edinger of the Natural Heritage Program, who's been out here multiple times and has looked at our Marl Fen directly. This is from the most recent report that I have, July 2015, shortly after his last visit.
indicated that the Marl Fen, which he ranked G1S1, which is the highest rarity globally and the highest rarity statewide on a scale of 1 to 5, G1 and S1, occurs in two patches, the first about 0.8 acres and the second about 0.2 acres, about 475 meters south of the runway. No additional patches of Marl Fen were found in 2015, and it is unlikely that additional patches will be discovered in the future if current flooding conditions persist. The first patch is in good condition despite past human disturbances that include ditching, damming, and filling in around the fen since the mid-1980s. There are a few invasive species present, but characteristic Marl Fen species persist and dominate. The smaller second patch was flooded with over half a meter of water from May to July 2015. He also issued a conservation guide for the Marl Fen, which he updated in March of this year, and he has the following comments, which I think are important. Conservation and management threats to Marl Fens are threatened by development and associated runoff. For example, agricultural, residential, roads, recreational overuse, for example, ATVs, hiking trails, and habitat alteration in adjacent landscapes. For instance, mining, excessive logging, and pollution. Alteration to the natural hydrology, for example, ditching, blocked culverts, beavers, is a threat to the community type. Conservation strategies and management practices consider how water flows around and into the wetland. As most of the water inputs are from underground, management of the prevention of altered water quality and quantity is particularly difficult for this natural community, but also of utmost priority. Projects that occur near this community must consider the proximity of the development in this wetland and the potential for changing how water flows both above ground and below ground into this wetland. Consultation with the hydrologist is important to determine patterns of runoff and underground water sources for the wetland. However, the minimization of impervious surfaces that rapidly divert water to the wetland should be avoided. Rapid influxes of surface water dilute the limy, mineral-rich waters, decrease the robustness of the native fen species, and increase the likelihood of invasion by non-native species. So this Marl Fen is, less than 100 feet off of the proposed runway, which will be an impervious surface. It draws its waters from underground, Lord knows where, but that's what hopefully we will determine. But, you must recognize that this, what looks like a pond to anybody else, is not like the ponds that are right next to it. The ponds right next to it, if you measure the pH of that water, it's neutral. It's coming from stormwater, etc. This, you measure the pH, it's highly alkaline, and that's the reason it's special, and that's the reason that only certain plants and animals thrive in this environment. So, read the facts. That there's too much being said that's not correct here, and this is important. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Announcements? Oh, I'm sorry.
I would like to address the board if I can for a moment.
Sure.
Great, thank you. Our nursing home, Westmount, has been in the news recently, and it's important that we stay appraised of what the last results have been relative to their performance. 14 months ago, Warren took ownership of our facility here in Queensbury. I talk to people periodically that have relatives at Westmount, and one person in particular, he spoke, I think, rather eloquently a couple of years ago regarding the Westmount, potential sale of Westmount. His wife used to be at Westmount. She is currently at home. This gentleman is a retired school teacher from Queensbury. He used to be a coach in the wrestling program in Queensbury. Very knowledgeable, very well-spoken gentleman. He knows what he's talking about. I run into him periodically, and the last time I ran into him, Coach said to me, basically he said, "What's the matter with you people? Have you lost your heart and your soul and your compassion for the most vulnerable? how did Warren get their latest rating designation done by the Medicaid, Medicare people? A rating of 1, public record, rated as much below average. How'd they get there? How did they earn that designation? Not a designation that if I were in that business, I would be terribly proud of. How'd they get there? How about the percentage of long-stay residents that have lost too much weight? How about the percentage of long-stay residents with pressure ulcers? How about the percentage of residents with urinary tract infections? How about the percentage of residents who had a catheter inserted and left in their bladder? How about the percentage of residents that are physically restrained? How about the percentages of residents taking anti-anxiety or hypnotic medication? How about the percentage of residents that currently take antipsychotic medication? How about the percentage of residents that exhibit depressive symptoms? We cannot unring the bell when it comes to Westmount, but it's really, really important that we stay on top of what's going on there. These are our friends, our relatives that are residents of these of Warren facilities. 1 is not a number that people ought to be proud of. A definable, publicly acknowledged number, and well earned, I assume, by the folks from Warren.
Okay.
Thank you.
Announcements. Edna.
Well, I forgot to mention that the annual Summer Youth Award ceremony and picnic will be on August 16th at Crandall Park, and it is a nice event, so it'd be nice to see as many supervisors as possible to turn out for that. So put that on your calendar, August the 16th.
Ms. Bramer, did I see your hand?
Thanks. I wanted to make a couple announcements. The last chance meeting is coming up on August 14th. Supervisors can put that on their calendar. Obviously, the committee will be there. Also, with respect to Mr. Freer mentioning about the biking trails, I wanted to note that I was at the Adirondack Challenge with the governor, and in his message, he did mention the Empire State Trail out of just a few other things. So I was really pleased that he is still keeping that in the forefront of his initiatives and priorities. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that we do have posters and also these smaller rat cards. If people want them, they are getting distributed throughout the region. They've gone to the Lake George Regional Chamber and Bolton's Chamber, so they're out there and you should see them. And we do want to get ahead of this and make sure that we are, that it is a good social awareness campaign, because that's what we're trying to get after, get people not to just see the enforcement side of it, but to want to change their behavior in a positive manner. Thanks.
Supervisor Stroud.
Yes, last Sunday I attended the Adirondack Challenge, and I was invited to be part of the governor's flotilla for the whitewater rafting on the Indian River. And it was not long after we received instructions as to how to retrieve a bounced participant that Supervisor Leggett put that instruction to good use. And thank you. I was one of those who was bounced out of the raft. The Indian River is pretty tasty water, too. But I want to thank Supervisor Leggett. We had a lot of fun on that adventure, along with Washington County Administrator Krista Bolt and Mayor Joe Ann Epson. So it was a good time, had by all. And again, thank you, Supervisor Leggett.
Supervisor Stevens.
Thank you. I too got to attend the governor's Adirondack Challenge and went fly fishing and did not win the award for the biggest fish. Mine was about this big. And but what I wanted to mention from the challenge is that not only did Supervisor Leggett, Bramer, and Stroud all attend, but our Warren County Tourism got an award, which was awesome. So Joanne Conley was recognized under Warren County Tourism, who also went fly fishing with me. I think her fish was bigger than mine. And she received the Carpe Diem Award, nice little pun from the governor on that. So we were excited to have that recognition. The final event was in the luncheon was held at 4, of course, we were so proud it was in Warren County, and hopefully after talking with the governor's office, maybe we can float together in a raft next year and go into Warren County, right down our beautiful river there. So they were very open to that. So that was exciting. I wanted you to know how well Warren County tourism represented themselves. Jean, I thought that was excellent. And the not so fun announcement is that on August 2nd, I believe, at our next meeting for Personnel and Finance, before that you all will get a job description for our county administrator. Of course, Supervisor Garrity is doing a great job holding down the fort, but he has asked that we all take a look at the job description as it's currently written. We will send that out to you this week and ask that, especially personnel members, that you get that back to us before the personnel meeting. We are going to address this at the August meeting, set aside some time for that. And our hope is to do interviews in October and hire by January. So I don't have any fun news other than the government thing. You guys, all this is work. So sorry, but that was fun. Thank you.
Supervisor Beatty.
Thank you. It's really not much of an announcement other than to say that I concur with Mr. McDivitt, and that it was a sad day to see the Westmount ratings, and there was only 5 supervisors that voted against Centers to take over the Westmount. I was very disappointed in the performance of many of our supervisors that day. We allowed Mr. Rosenberg to come and do what I call a dog and pony show. I've seen many presentations over my years in my business endeavors, and I feel he snowed many of our supervisors. And that was a very dark day for the county residents, for our seniors. And now, unfortunately, what we were saying back then is now coming to roost. And the poor performance of Centers is exactly what we were warning everyone about and we were afraid of. And unfortunately, it's coming to fruition. So I hope in the future that this board and any future boards looks at every issue and looks at the work that other supervisors do in an honest and open manner, and not just take the direction of then County Administrator Paul Dusick and a few select other supervisors that met in secretive meeting to determine the fate and give out information that was less than accurate. So it was a bad day then. It's a bad day now for our county residents and seniors, and I can only hope it can get better, but I don't know. We've already washed our hands of it, unfortunately. Thank you.
Any other announcements?
Well, I just wanted to initially help out Supervisor Seaver with some good news to finish on a positive note. If anybody has not been to Take a Bite downtown Glens Falls, 5 to 7 o'clock every Wednesday until I think it's August, middle of August, the date escapes me. I highly, highly recommend it. Ton of food vendors down there, ton of people. They block off the streets. It is the place to be. Get down there if you have the chance.
All right. Motion to adjourn. Mr. Simpson, Mr. Montesi on the second. All in favor?
Aye.
We opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.